Nothing in this video is meant to be taken as derisive towards the dean of my university, the president of my university, the corresponding staff of either of those individuals, or anyone on my university staff. That is not the intention of this video. So just for those who may claim that's the intention of this video, it is not. I'm just getting that right out there, right in the forefront. That is not my intention. Do not take it that way. If you do, you are not sticking true to what I'm saying, the spirit of what I'm saying, so to speak. Now, with that disclaimer out of the way, my university is not necessarily being all that prudent, I would say, about its coronavirus prevention regulations. Well, what is prudent in this era of COVID? Well, according to the current medical establishment and a lot of people, particularly of a particular political persuasion, particularly people on the left, what is prudent is that which suppresses individual activity outside of particular parameters, which requires individuals to wear masks, which requires individuals to remain isolated, which requires individuals to do a bunch of things which are largely contingent upon the current knowledge of the virus, which has been developing radically and very fast throughout the duration of these past few months since COVID has been around. For example, at the beginning of this pandemic, you were not supposed to wear N95 masks. The CDC and the WHO clearly said N95 masks don't work. Then they came back and said that they did work. At the beginning of the pandemic, or as the pandemic went on, the medical establishment said that 6 feet is the proper length of social distancing that we're supposed to do if we don't want to get killed by this plague. Well, now, in August, the New York Times reported that a team from the University of Florida said 12 feet is the proper length of social distancing because there have been people, or 16 feet, because there have been people who have been hospitalized with coronavirus whose aerosol has spread across the room, the hospitalization room, up to 16 feet. Now, the establishment said, well, we are not sure if this means that they are dangerous. Well, those aerosol units could just be impotent. They could not be dangerous. But you said 6 feet. I understand, and anything a person should understand, that the knowledge of how to deal with a developing situation naturally changes as situations develop. But my university is not embracing that spirit of dynamism. In fact, I think they're embracing a pretty dangerous authoritarian slope. So, for example, I'll use my personal experience here. I am someone who loves to read books. I thoroughly enjoy reading books. If you didn't know, if you know about this channel, you probably know that. And I spend a lot of my time in the university library. Well, there are areas of the library that are quite isolated, that no one else is around, particularly the top floor sometimes, when in the very back corner where no one is near, not 6 feet away, not 12 feet away, not 16 feet away, not even 30 feet away. There is no one near oftentimes when I'm there. On 3 separate occasions, I have had library staff people, various, walk past me and utter a ominous remark, well, you better have that mask on. You better have that mask on whether we're on this floor or not. And sometimes, even like what told to me today, blankly say, oh, you're trying to challenge the system, aren't you? Because I am sitting in the corner where I am near absolutely no one. It is so barren, it is so desolate. It is so desolate that I think that Marco Polo would be just astonished. I'm near absolutely no one, and yet I am trying to challenge the system simply by being, simply by existing, simply by sitting there, sitting on my ass and reading a book. That is challenging the system, according to some folks. Now, you could say, well, this is just the actions of a few bureaucrats. But, these actions always come under the auspices of adhering to university policy. That's number one. That is where they derive their power from. See, a bureaucrat cannot operate in a vacuum. A bureaucrat must operate with the power that is given to it by a particular legal structure or by a particular sort of officiated structure. Right? There's a reason why, bishops within the Catholic Church have power. They have power and authority because they operate from the legal structure of the church. Similarly, a bureaucrat in the government or a bureaucrat at a university will operate within the legal structure of the university. So that's number one. So if the root of what they're doing is connected back to policies, we have to fundamentally examine the policies. Number one. Number two, this is the funny thing. every policy has the ability to be enforced in a manner that is not obtrusive. Let me say that again. Every policy has the ability to be enforced in a manner that is not obtrusive. Meaning, and this concept is actually accepted in common law as well. So police officers have something called officerial discretion. A lot of times when an officer says, this marijuana that you have in your car, I'm not going to pay attention to it, or when they say, if you do this little thing, I'll let you go off with a warning, that's discretion. You don't have to be a doctrinaire. You don't have to be a dogmatist. And guess what? You probably shouldn't be a doctrinaire. You probably shouldn't be a dogmatist when it comes to my individual rights. But people are not respecting that. But this is not just a few rogue people at the library who've gone mad with power. No, this comes straight from the dean himself. The dean, Dean Pearson, he released an email to the student body saying that the student code of conduct will be duly enforced, watch this, outside of the confines of the university if students are not adhering to university-specific coronavirus guidelines. Does that make any sense to you? From my understanding, a university-specific guideline is meant to govern the university. It's meant to govern what happens within the confines of the university. But students are not slaves, nor are they prisoners. Students are folks who enter into a contractual agreement with the dean, with the school, with the university, and agree to fork over $50,000 current tuition rates or current tuition plus fee rates towards the university in exchange for value. It is an economic exchange. That's what it is. I'm not paying, number one, to be told that I can't go out off of campus and gather with someone. And they even said in that email that if you violate the guest policy, off campus, we can hold you accountable too. The guest policy. So the guest policy basically says that you cannot have a particular person in your room, in your building, after a particular time. The logic of these things, of course, would be to, I guess, prevent a bad scenario from happening, prevent discomfort within the room. And the logic of coronavirus guidelines is also to prevent, the logic of them is to prevent the spread of the plague. But how do these edicts from either the library people or whatever building people you may be encountering or the dean fulfill that role? They don't. And let me tell you why. Number one, students can theoretically gather outside of campus and still be safe. However, that doesn't matter according to these edicts that came down from the dean. It says that if you gather and you are around a lot of people, I'm paraphrasing, of course, you gather and you're around a lot of people and so on and so forth, if you are breaking our guidelines that we have for this campus, and particularly for this campus, which, by the way, are still going off of the 6 feet nonsense. Again, the study last month found that it's 12 feet or 16 feet, or we actually don't know. So it's still going off of false nonsense. But it's not the university's fault. The CDC still has it on the website. The CDC is still touting this stuff, when in all reality, we have other scientists that are in mainstream news, New York Times, so on and so forth, saying, hey, the government's got this wrong. It's probably 12 to 16 feet, but that doesn't matter. So the university's policies, which are still laden with outdated information, are not meant to apply outside of the university. It is meant to apply within the space of the university, within spaces within the university that could be susceptible to the coronavirus. But if you go outside of the university, especially in just Macon, Georgia, where the university is, you have a range of options to choose from. You can go to the Ocmulgee National Mounds. You go to Ocmulgee, and guess what? The Indian Mounds, you can distance there and have a gathering. It doesn't take that into account. All it says is that if you do not abide by the rules that we have on this campus, if you do not abide by the student code of conduct that we have on this campus, outside of this campus, then you will face consequences. Well, I thought the student code of conduct was for was a guideline for how students are meant to act and react between staff, faculty, and other students on campus. So that they are quite literally taking the student code of conduct beyond its purview and imprinting it upon every single student for it to follow them wherever they go. all in the name of safety. Well, guess what? I don't feel safe. I don't feel safe. I feel nannied. I feel like I feel like a little paternalized. I don't feel safe. And I suspect there are a litany of students that express my sentiments and feel how I feel. Again, this is not meant to be disrespectful. And if there is the president of the university watching this, thank you. Hi, I appreciate it. If there's Dean Pearson watching this, thank you. Hi, I appreciate it. If anyone of any faculty or whatever in the university is watching this, I simply ask you to reconsider how you are handling this, because it does not actually serve to protect us. It does not actually serve to ensure that personal responsibility remains responsible, remains active. Ultimately, all you can do, if you're going to police anything, which again, I think these coronavirus regulations as a whole are ridiculous, but if you're going to police anything, all you can truly do, my friends, Dean Pearson, President Underwood, is try to control what happens on the campus, or try to moderate what happens on the campus. Please don't dictate to us what we cannot and what we can do outside of the confines of campus. That is beyond the purview of the contractual relationship that Mercer University students have entered in with you guys. And it is also beyond any aim of safety, and instead, I think, comes dangerously close to authoritarianism. That's just my opinion. And the reason I'm doing this, I'll end with a quote. The great Ralph Waldo Emerson said that it is incumbent upon every single individual to see if goodness be goodness, to challenge goodness, and to see if that sentiment of goodness be goodness. All that means is that it is incumbent upon me, you, and anyone else watching this, anyone else in this world, to challenge established social customs, especially those customs that infringe upon my individual rights, that go beyond a contractual agreement that I entered into, that impede upon my progress as a being in society. It is my duty, my sort of moral duty, to challenge that and see if goodness has any legs to it. I believe what the president and what Dean Pearson are trying to do is very admirable and it's noble, but what they're doing to inflict that nobility and the admirability into us, into the campus, into our lives so we could be safe, in their words, it falls way short of the actual task at hand. So, thank you so much for watching, guys. And as always, please stay pensive.